We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the road to kindness. And Tony had was just sharing. Always come early, always stay late when you can on the live one because what happens before and after is really really cool. So if you can participate in the live one, for sure do so. And so Tony was just sharing on how last week, we talked about the passion circle, and so where you go ahead and you just draw a circle and then you just list everything you're passionate about. And little kids can do it. And it's really cool. Like that's I think what
It's cool.
like we just had two new babies, in our family just in the last few weeks.
I know.
And you just like every week they grow, they change. Like every week they're changing and growing, and kids are so excited and they're so passionate about everything because it's the first time. I love with my grandkids. I'm like, so honey, what did you see for the very first time in your life that, like, we don't think about that as adults? Like, I've never seen that before. I've never seen this before. And so Tony, you were sharing about how
Yeah.
you're doing that, the passion circle at a family event or something like that.
So last week I was in Atlanta for a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, a partner retirement party, and I'd helped her sister through probably about 4 months ago work with her son who has ADHD, and he was having trouble trying to figure out what he wanted to do. He was swimming, and he enjoyed swimming, but he really didn't, he was very good at it. As his father said, he was very good at swimming, but he just didn't want to get in the water. So what people that have ADHD, when they step up to the platform to jump in the water, if it says it's 73 or whatever, it's actually 53 for them because they get it. If they don't want to be there, they make it a lot colder. But once he got in, he was okay. But he was a good swimmer, but he really didn't want to get in the water. So I suggested that he try martial arts. And so he tried martial arts and he was really good at it. And he's progressing through and he's breaking wood and he's having a fun time. I even got pictures from the family saying, "Hey, this is something he really enjoys." And then and now he's doing soccer, which is great because soccer keeps you moving the whole time. So I said, take take the circle that you have, and I said, I added one little thing to it. I said, have him draw himself above the circle. Like, what does he look like above the circle? I said,
Right.
and then have him list out all the things he likes to do. And I think he's 10 years of age. It was 9, he just turned 10. So I said, have him list out all the things he wants to do. And his mom was, I mean, she was great. She smiled. She said, that sounds like a great idea. And I said, eventually he'll figure out as a young boy what he really wants to do. And that can go in the middle of the circle. Whether
Right.
because his dad really wants him to do swimming. He didn't really like to do swimming. And I said, so, when you have a child that has ADHD you just got to give him the opportunity to try different things. So it
Right.
may not be soccer. And then I said, I don't know if you have lacrosse here, but lacrosse is really a cool sport for
Right.
kids that anything that gets you moving can give you the energy that you need. And so I shared it with them, the circle. So I just learned a circle from you last week, and I thought it was pretty cool. And I was already using it with somebody. And so, and we've had a great week. We've given out 3 grants this week to other little kids and parents, and it's great meeting the families. And we got 20 people in the pipeline right now. So we got 4 more calls last week. So we're getting there, and I now have to I'm finding more coaches. I'm interviewing more ADHD life coaches because we talked last week. We talked about one of the things that they're going to also use is the VIA character strength. That's VIA character strength. There's 24 attributes to that, and even as a little child,
Right.
9, 10, 11 years of age, they take them through that.
Right.
And as long as they can read and they can pick out what they think is the really cool, what they really think their strengths are. And typically what falls into that top 5, kindness and love. Kids that have ADHD have so much love and they just want to, and they're kind kids. They have kind hearts. They just want to do things for other people. And they have a lot of empathy. They can pick up on, what's not working. We're talking about going deep here in terms of being kind is about drilling down a little further on, these principles of the Dale Carnegie principles, taking it to the next step. What does it mean to you? Like a smile is nice, but a smile can also be kind when you extend it to someone who's not having it, not feeling having a good day, and you ask them what else is up, what else is wrong. So this week we got. I thought we maybe spend a few minutes on the other the
Yeah.
other assessments that you could do. But I really want you to talk about your assessment that you do that you can pick out in 17 or 20 seconds what people are. I think that's important. So, but before we get there, let's just spend a few minutes on. We've gone through now the first six Dale Carnegie principles in the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. So today we're talking about number 7, which is be a good listener. And that's really important. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Number 8 is talk in terms of the other person's interests. And number 9 is make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. So I think these three kind of bring this kindness concept together. It's kindness is helping people to find their worth. Okay, WORTH, find their worth. And that's the theme here. So the greatest gift we can give to any person is helping them to feel like they matter, right? I mean, if you could help someone feel like they matter and they're important, you can really help them. Because a lot of people that I mean, I think you sent out the 3 friendships and from Rosanna, and and also there was someone who does something bad to you, and they
Right.
avoid you. I thought those were
Right.
cool. Those are all cool. So if you could, but here we're flipping the coin a little bit, and I think it's true that we don't we only have really a few real friends in our life. I mean that are true friends. There's a virtue there. There's no coincidences. They become a friend because there's no coincidences. And so I think the whole idea here is if we can make someone feel important, they're going to feel good about themselves. Now, the thing that I got to put a challenge out here is that the challenge we have is social media, right?
Right.
If you think about social media, there's lots of people on social media, and they can be out there trying to get views and a million views or whatever, and they feel important on social media, but they still feel lonely. Like some of that doesn't make sense because they're all acquaintances. They're not really friends. They're like, they're your followers. They may be part of your, we call it part of your village. You want to become part of the village, but they're really not true friends. And so people that even have a lot of views don't really feel like they have any true friends. So here, these concepts here, really, I think, bring out the value proposition here of, can we help someone to feel like they matter? So let's talk about the first one, which is listening. Be a good listener. Okay. And really, what I think is important here, I want to share a little story about listening. And we're talking about listening intently. So not just listening. Like we could all sit here and we could all be talking, but we drift off. I mean, we don't. Our attention spans are small or not very large. So, but the true value here is like when I was a partner at Ernst and Young, we used to go into meetings. We used to bring this, everybody at the partnership said, bring a deck with you, bring a PowerPoint deck with you, so you could really, share everything. I said, and I just said, I just want to go hear what their issues are. So,
Right.
because if I can learn what their issues are,
Oh,
so I'd sit there quietly. We make the introductions, and we kind of share a little bit on our concepts, and then we say we want to learn about you folks. What's most important to you? So I would leave every meeting, and if they said something that about an issue, I would already go look and research what was the solution to the issue, and I would send it to them. We won more business that way than trying to talk about ourselves at these meetings, and just tell them what we can give them, what we could bring to the table for them, and as opposed to listening. There are many times I'd go over, and if there were like 3 or 4 people sitting there, I'd slide a chair in between them, and I'd sit next to them, and I have them turn around and look at me. I want them to get close and talk to me, tell me your issues. That's listening intently. That's where this thing turns around and really becomes, a kindness. Because if you can leave a meeting or you could leave a call or anything that you're on, and you could send someone something that's helpful and solves a problem, you've added value to that, and you've given you really show them that they matter to you. So what I appreciate, Mark, is you always send something out, a little note out afterwards on these or with Rosanna. I don't see a lot of people responding to Rosanna's um, points every day. So, but they're all good, and I responded to a couple this week. I think if you really read them and you digest them and you take it deeply, there's going to be something that comes out of those. So, Rosanna,
do you
thank
know?
you for sending those out.
Do you know how you? I don't think. Tony, people know how to do what you do naturally
I don't know.
because it's fascinating to me because I mean my stuff tends to be longer, so I tend to have books that I
Yeah.
write, um, and Rosanna's tend to be really short. Like
Yeah, I love it. I think
yeah,
it's
so so mine I can understand why people say, well, Marx is a book. I can't read a book, right? So I get that, but my experience is
yeah,
that
yeah,
people they need to here's all the steps. If you don't give people steps, it's like they don't get it.
yeah,
But hers, I mean, how can you read something or how can you watch one of those videos
absolutely. Yeah,
and I mean there's some of them are 17 seconds. Like
yeah.
how do you not do that?
Yeah,
And
I love the you're attaching the videos now. I love that. That's kind of cool. That
the one
you try
suggestion,
to
Roseanne, I would give to you is I'd go ahead and put in parentheses, 17 seconds or 1 minute or
oh,
two,
for how long it is. Yeah,
how
yeah.
long it is. So people think, oh, this is a short video. I can
But
watch that.
the one on the friendship one that you shared that was the friendships of usefulness, friendships of pleasure, and friendships of virtue. I mean, how true are those? I mean, think about it.
Right.
They're not unless they get to number three, they're not really a true friend. That's why we only have a few true friends in our life. But this one is really I think this one I try to pay attention more to this one. And I don't know if you're familiar with Gandhi and how he
Uh-huh.
practiced and stuff. And
Uh-huh.
he used to always go into his there's a big write up in there people about that would listen to Gandhi and say he would go into sessions with his leaders all around. He wouldn't say a word. He let all of them tell what's going on before he would speak because he had so much influence that he thought that if he spoke, people wouldn't
Right.
share what's going on in their situation or their particular area of activity. So I think it's about just stepping back sometimes and listening as opposed to talking is the best virtue you can get from someone. And that shows kindness too, because if you listen intently and you go do something and you take an action by it, that's bringing out the kindness in this whole process. And I think that's important. So, number eight now is talk in terms of the other person's interests. So, isn't it better when we try to find out what interests people, instead of, the kinds of how you doing today, what's going on, but what's exciting in your life today? Ask them a different question, and trying to take a minute and just spend a good minute or two letting them talk to you. So what interests they have? Like you talked about bike riding, you talked about pickleball. Well, you know, um, I used to love to ride a bicycle. I don't ride a bicycle anymore. I played pickleball a few times, but I love when people tell me about pickleball because I love to play it. I'm trying to find time in my day. And then my wife, Casey, I love to get her out there to play pickleball with me, but she has a bad knee. So, and you got to move laterally and so one of the things that we've done for people that have ADHD is I put this balance and moving laterally program together. There's a big study out there about what can help a child focus more, and it was done by a European group, and they studied, I don't know, 6,000 people and kids that have people and adults that have ADHD, and they gave them balance movement. So again, finding out what's going to work for someone, or giving a suggestion, like if your child can't focus, so I give them the balance program, and I've gotten comments that gives them the ability to focus 30 minutes more than they would have if they had homework or a test because they're moving laterally. They're closing their eyes and they're trying to balance. It takes a hell of a lot of focus to get to balance yourself. And as adults, we should be doing the same thing because as we get older, we don't have that balance. And so I say to the parents, I said, when I send this suggestion, this balance routine, I say, try it with them, have fun with it, because by the time you're done, you're going to be laughing because you can't stand. You try to stand on your one leg for 30 seconds. You might be able to do it, but then close your eyes and you,
Right.
you just lose all sense of where you're at. And, in martial arts, they used to teach us to close our eyes and feel where the movements are, and it's important. So asking someone else what their interests are and really, really drilling down, even going to study what interest, like study pickleball. Well, I studied pickleball. I understand what the kitchen is now. I didn't know what the kitchen, got to stay out of the kitchen. People say you stay out of the kitchen. I understand why you got to stay out of the kitchen. jumping around a little bit, but the point here is what interests other people. Find out what interests them, and you're going to make them feel like they're important. And if you care enough to understand what's important to them, and then they may give you the same time. What's really interesting is that when you spend a little time with someone to find out what's interesting, you never get the same thing back. They really never if they don't know how to the reciprocity isn't coming back to you to say, well, what's important to you? What do you like
Right.
doing? And that's okay. Being a kind person, that's okay. You shouldn't really care about, if they
Well,
ask you how you're doing.
but I think true caring is teaching people
Yes,
how to do those types of things.
absolutely.
Because I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think a lot of it they just don't know.
Yeah, they don't. That's why I think this book is iconic in the sense that, it really is important that, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's really important the fact that, share the book. Who's ever listening out there, share the book with somebody because I think
Because I think the
value proposition is going to be really important. And if they take the time to really read it and understand the principles, it's going to be really, really important. So number 9 is make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. So I like the last part of that. Do it sincerely. You can make someone feel important, by asking them, by saying they did a great job, or, but tell them what you liked about the job they did. Like what I thought what was really cool is you take your kids around, they clean up the area, and then you tell them what a good job, if they've done something really good. You know, the idea is ask them, well, what'd you enjoy about doing that? Did you have fun cleaning up the area? And a lot of kids say, no, I hated it. I didn't like cleaning up. I don't like cleaning up, but my grandpa makes me do it. So, and it's just, but you're doing it in a sincere nature. Like, what did you like about that? What did you like about that project? What did was that something, what'd you learn out of it? Instead of saying, good job, take it to the next step. And that's really what the Carnegie principles are about, taking things to the next step.
No.
So, so I wanted to just spend a couple minutes because we started down a path, and last week about talking about these ways to make and do an assessments for yourself. And that's going to lead into the closing on this thing. So, Mark, why don't you share first how you developed your assessment and how you can tell someone in 17, 20 seconds just what they are. I think it's
Yeah.
so cool.
So I do a lot of volunteer work for a number of different great causes and nonprofit organizations. One of them is Life Masteries Institute, and been doing that for going on 2 decades now. And they've developed something called personality masteries, and in 17 seconds you can identify somebody's personality. Tom Kuntz, who's the most recent past president of Century 21, it's the largest real estate franchise in the world, he went through this, and then he went through a training that they had. I think it's a 7-week online course or 12-week online course. And he said, Mark, I've been through every personality assessment under the sun, all kinds of training. He said, I've never seen anything like this. He said, I've never seen something that was so fast, 17 seconds, and it's so easy to teach, and you never go ahead and like end up like you always learn more, like you're always learning more. And so it's really simple. You just ask people, which of the 4 shapes do you tend to like the most: a cube, pyramid, wavy line, or ball? And first, second, third, and fourth. And then you say, which of these 4 things cause you most frustration in any area of your life: out of order, out of control, boring or not fun, or conflict with others? And Life Mastery has a mobile app that is free. You just go in and you just do it. And there's a bunch of different channels. And so there's one for the friendship with Tony and what we're doing with him. And once you identify, so between these 2 tests, like with most personality assessments, there's 4 major ones. And then if you look at 2 levels, there's 16. If you look at 3 levels, there's 64. If you look at 4 levels, there's 256. If you look at the Geo and the Pain Quadrant testing, there's 65,536 possible combinations. And so it's really cool the things that Life Masteries is doing with this to help people to be self-aware. So sometimes the personality assessments match, and so sometimes they don't. We tend to like other people who are like us, and we tend to fall in love with people who are opposite. So I'm a very heavy driver analytic personality, so very, very deep there. My wife is going to be an amiable analytic personality. And so there's some overlap, but by and large, we're opposite. But Mike, he's a new friend of mine. He's on. Good to have you on, Mike. And like we've only known each other, I don't know, a couple months, I think it is. And like it was crazy on the connection we had. But he's a double expressive and double amiable. So he's more opposite to me than my wife is. And one of the I can tell, like we can sense we're missing something. And so, I had, every Thursday I go and meet with a gentleman, Alvin Miller. He's in his mid 80s, very successful business guy, grew up Amish. And I've been going with JoJo, my 8-year-old granddaughter. And this week, her sister and her brother, her twin sister, and then her older brother, they've been wanting to go for quite a while. And so this week we went. And so my grandson, I noticed he was having a hard time focusing in on what Alvin was saying. Like he's distracted, all this. Now I have an idea from Tony, lateral movement, because you got to learn to pay attention. So I'm like, ooh, that's what I've been looking. Because I'm like, so one of the things like with Mike, he's got a lake house and stuff like that. And when Ginger Ann was going in for her delivery, I watched the 6 kids for 2 days and brought him to pickleball, and then we went out to eat. Mike went out to eat with us because he's like the fun grandpa. Like I'm like the teaching grandpa. Like everything's a lesson. I mean, with Mike, everything's a lesson too, but it's fun. It's more fun. So if I can hang around him, I can either pick up things or he can be fun. And then at least the grandkids, the 12 of them say, Grandpa, I don't know if you're fun, but you have fun friends, and I'm fine with and that's with you, Tony, too. I'd love for you to meet all of my grandkids because
No.
you would be fun. They
Yeah,
would
I
they
love
would
kids.
enjoy you a lot. And so when we identify somebody's personality, we know their strengths, weaknesses, what they like, what they don't, turns them on, turns them off, if they're married, who they're married to, conflict of marriage, what to say, when to say it. You know more about them in 17 seconds. There's not a week that goes by that somebody doesn't say, dang, Mark, like you just met me and you know more about me than my mom does. That's crazy. So it's a great way to build deep connections. My wife just laughs and she's like, people tell you, Mark, things like there was a woman that had just a tragic story. She's in her late 50s, early 60s, and just tragic story at 13. And then at 15, just terrible things. And I talked to her husband, I'm a friend of him, and I said, yeah, it was great that you introduced me to your wife. And, I was surprised that she shared all these things. Is that normal? He's like, no, you're probably the fifth person in her life ever that she's told that to. And it was all within minutes in the first conversation. He says her dad doesn't even know what happened at 13 and 15. And so like when people, and so Alvin Miller, I said to him, I said, Alvin, like, how do you have significant conversations with people? He said, some people you can't. And I said, that's like, I always like when people say I can't, because then I want to do it. Like, I'm going to figure this thing out. I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, to have significant conversations, you've got to be vulnerable. And I thought, huh. So I think that's one of the reasons, that people are so open to me is because I'm pretty transparent pretty quick. Like, it's been hard. 41 years of marriage. There've been some really hard things and 7 kids and all the stuff that's gone on. And I think a lot of times, I don't know if we cover them up or try to forget them or we don't want to expose ourselves. But when we expose ourselves to people and make ourselves vulnerable, they make them vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable together, that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, being vulnerable is not always. People are not vulnerable most times. So you find it. I mean, they don't. I mean, to have someone give out that whatever information in a few minutes is pretty amazing because they most people aren't vulnerable. And but he's so right. Some people you can't have a deep conversation with. Some people, and you know that right up front. I mean, you know that it's going to be a short conversation. It's like you move on. But some people you connect with. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's great. I mean, I love this, um, and that you can do it with everybody in 17 seconds is pretty cool. So
on, on this here, on this here, the Life Masteries has the there's a channel that Tony has, and you can go in. And I think where the deep connections come from is when you get people to actually share.
Right.
You get people to actually share. Um, so in here, there's four different podcasts here from that we've done, and you can go in. You can join the channel. Again, there's no cost. You go in and you can join the channel, and then you can watch the podcast. And then what's really cool, you can share a reflection. So I think we say that's a nice video, or that's kind of cool, or that's interesting, but
Yeah.
do we do anything? Like this is with Tony, like I really want to reverse engineer him. Like I want to reverse engineer him. Like I'm going to figure him out. I'm going to figure out how he does what he does because he sees things that other people don't see. And then he took something from last week and he applied it like right away. Like a lot of times we go, oh, that's a good idea, but we don't apply it. And if we don't apply it, it kind of goes into the stratosphere and it
Yeah, you don't
doesn't
do
really
anything.
have impact. So he's like, I'm going to try that. It's like almost like like Tony and Mike and I and a few other in my life, we're like 3-year-old boys. We're like, oh, what toy do you have? And what are you like? We're so like it's like we're little boys again. Like,
Yeah.
well, let's try
Yeah.
this and let's try this. And this doesn't seem to be working. Well, let's try this and this and this. And so this is where I think that when we share our thoughts and then you can comment on those, and Roseanne is just a machine on this stuff. Like she's like top of the class. She's always 100%, which I love. And so she has these insights and she shares this stuff. And when you see somebody else, then you want to share. Like Rosanna has this really cool daily, and it's just something to short. And I don't know, there's 50, 60, 70 people on it or whatever, and very few people comment. It's just weird to me.
Mm.
I don't understand. Tony did. I'm like,
Have
how
them
hard
comment.
is that to do to actually comment? But nobody comments on Tony's comments. I'm
Right.
just like I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, are people? I think that's why, honestly, why people like zombie movies are so popular these days because
We'll
people
have
like
to
to see the
think.
zombie movies and feel good about themselves. They see I'm better than that zombie. Well, a little bit better, but not much.
Yeah.
We got to run here.
Yeah.
Mike, Rosanna, David, anything you guys have?
This has been really good. I appreciate the input and Tony on being kind and how to do it, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, Roseanne, I appreciate you. Keep sending those notes out. I read them and when I can comment, I'll comment. But I think it's great that you do that. And I wish more people would respond or give their thoughts. So it's cool.
Yeah. And
Thank
Tony,
you.
one of these days, so I don't even know if Tony knows this. He might not know this about himself, but he's got a system for kindness. And so I think that, we all think we're busy and we got kids and grandkids and well, I don't know, I'm kind of exhausted. But kindness, when we're really, truly, sincerely, deeply kind, when we put in 10 pounds of kindness, we get like 20, 30, 40. It's like love. You don't have finite. Like if you have 7 kids like us, you don't love them 1/7. Like love
That's right. That's right.
and passion and
Yeah.
kindness, when you're truly that, it gives back more than what you're giving. And you're like,
Hmm.
well, dang, this is like
Yeah. It
like this
does.
isn't this isn't gonna I don't have enough energy for kindness. Well, then you're probably not being kind, because if you're truly being kind, you're going to get more energy back than what you're going to give. That's been my experience. And so thank you, Tony. I love the preparation and how you share. If you're
Just
listening to
what
the broadcast, yeah, go ahead.
Just one thing. Let's close out with this. So this is something that there's a closing thought here. Carnegie taught us how to connect with people. The modern assessments help us understand ourselves, but neither is the destination. The destination is becoming the kind of person whose presence leaves others feeling seen, heard, valued, and loved. That's really what kindness does. It doesn't simply change conversations; it changes lives. So I thought that was an important point to bring out here as we close out today. It changes lives. Being kind can change a life. A kind statement can someone have a bad day, someone thinking bad thoughts, by just someone showing them that some kindness can really change their perspective and help them. So, anyways,
So,
great, Mark. Love being with you, buddy. Love
yeah,
being with
you
all you
too.
guys. Thank you.
And I want to reinforce that with one final story. There's a client of ours, a business owner, and we were doing action vision coaching, and he said that he was in a bad place in his 20s, and he was in his car, and he was planning to commit suicide, like he was on his way to do that, and he said he got a phone call from his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And he said his brother didn't know, but his brother said, "Hey, come on over, and because I want to hang out with you, and this and this and this." And so, like, we don't know, like, we don't know where other people are at, and so that act of kindness, like, it not only impacts, but it literally, it literally
Yeah.
can save. And I've heard of those stories, but when I actually experienced that with him, I thought, how many times do we miss an opportunity to go ahead and give somebody a little bit of energy? And Tony and I feel very deeply when those opportunities are missed and the consequences of those. And
Yeah.
so I'd encourage all of you to do that. And these little pieces here, share this with other people. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.